Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Monday Discourse for today, March 1st, 2021. We're almost 1 year since we entered into quarantine hellscape with, at least in Canada, no end in sight. Yay! I am Tristan, your host, and the host of Step Back History and Tristan Won't Shut Up. I stream on Mondays from noon to 2, which you're watching right now, which is the Monday Discourse with Mia Mulder, who will be joining us in just a moment. Tuesday nights, I do Step Back Tonight from 7 to 9, where it's just me. We talk about things and stuff. And then on Fridays from 12 to 2, we do the Reactor, where people send me content and I respond to it and try to see how many copyright claims I can get in one stream. I go by he, him pronouns. You can find my work at stepbackhistory.com or tristanwon'tshutup.com. And if you want to support my work, you can go to patreon.com/stepbackhistory. Or if you are on Amazon Prime, if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can use your once per month free Twitch Prime subscription to help Step Back History out. Of course, if you don't want to help Step Back History out, I still recommend that you use that Twitch Prime subscription every month, because if you don't use it, Amazon just gets to keep your money. So please help somebody out at least. What else should I talk about? Yes. As for upcoming content, I am finishing the script for the next Step Back video today. That's my afternoon project. And Tristan Won't Shut Up also has a script that is finished. So that means tomorrow I'm probably filming both of them. So expect some content coming in the next few days. My hope, my fingers crossed, is to get the Step Back video out before the end of the week. And I'm going to put a link in the chat. This is a place where you can go to submit questions for the stream. We're probably not going to get to it today. There's a pretty big backlog of questions for when Mia's here, so you'll have to forgive that. But this is a place where you can submit questions for future streams. And of course, if this is your first time here, your first time watching a stream, please say hello and make yourself known, because we've got quite an active community of very fun people who would love to have new friends. I'm going to turn a fan on real quick. I have a fair bit of tooth pain that's going to be bugging me for the rest of the day, so good stuff. Okay, that's everything I got to start off the show, so without further ado, let's get Mia in here. Hey, King Cuggy, thank you for subscribing. Much appreciated. You are what makes this possible.
Hello?
Hello.
Your Canadian friend.
Yes, there you go. Just push the transition button and there you are.
Perfect. That's usually how you get me. You have to push a couple of transition buttons.
Yeah. Hi, Gumi Gang. Yeah, there you go.
It was one time. And a couple of Gumi jokes.
Let's be fair. It was about 8 to 12 Gumi jokes over it was about a one Gumi joke every 4 to 5 minutes for 3 hours.
For 3 hours. That's true. Listen, it was a good podcast.
Yep. You should say hello and all the who you are and all your stuff for all the new folks.
Yeah. Hi. My name is Mia Mulder. I'm a YouTuber with a history slanted YouTube page who, for some reason, has a very bright lighting setup that I don't know exactly why. I make video essays on YouTube.com, YouTube.biz. And I have a new one that's coming out in like 3 hours.
Ooh, exciting stuff.
Very
yeah, this one you're pretty hyped about this one if I remember correctly.
I'm moderately hype about it. The one that I was the topic that I was hype about was the original script for this video, which is not at all about what this video is about. This video is about free speech and PragerU, but it started as a sort of video essay on the nature of online discussion and streamer culture.
Okay.
It's not about that at all anymore. It's about free speech on the internet and PragerU. It's a very mellow, sort of slow burn, very classic Mia Mulder video. So I hope people like it because I like it. But it's probably the most like mellow, slow burn video I've made in a long time. I made it a script that I estimated to be half an hour long because I wanted to take it easy on myself. Make a short video, take it easy. It is 50 minutes long.
So for everyone who likes long and mellow Mia videos, finally, something for you.
Finally, at long last, after so many years of high octane, short, Vine length, hyper documentaries about violence and explosions, finally, chill out.
So we've got a couple.
How are you? Sorry. How are you doing, by the way? I should have asked.
Doing all right. I had a dental emergency last week that I am still in the process of recovering from, where I had to get basically I had a filling chip on me, and I had to go get it refilled at like an emergency dentist, and now I'm like my mouth hurts. So that's been my life.
God, emergency dental is like the worst thing that exists.
Yep. And I'm just glad that I'm just glad that my wife has dental insurance, because in Canada, dentists are still private. Your teeth are luxury bones.
Yeah, healthcare here is still like operated in part by the state, but there's still luxury bones. So it's like the government has like taken over some of the services, but still decides like it's still luxurious. This is not a right that you have for teeth. Teeth are a privilege.
Gosh, everyone flexing their tooth privilege.
These rich people with their teeth.
God damn. Yeah, so at the moment, they were like, your tooth is gonna be a little bit sensitive to hot and cold. And I had a meal that was maybe a little bit too hot last night, and I still haven't recovered. It's fun. It's very fun.
Oh God, that's horrifying.
And it's that kind of pain where like it stretches into the jaw, and so like the whole side of my head feels like it's in pain. It's really good. I highly recommend. 10 out of 10 pain. Would have.
Oh God, I'm really sorry. I guess this is about time to say that I wish I could take over the speaking for this entire 2 hours, but unfortunately I'm leaving like halfway through the stream because I have to do stuff for my own video release.
It's all good.
You should really take it easy though. Like, if you're in pain,
it's fine.
You should.
I'll be fine.
Friend, if you're in pain, you should.
I took some Advil. I should be good in half an hour.
If you're in pain, listen to yourself here. You shouldn't work if it causes pain. You know yourself, and you should obviously you should do whatever you feel comfortable with. But I'm just saying that like, if your jaw hurts, I think people will understand if you have a little shorter hang today.
Yeah, it's all good.
If you need it.
I took some Advil. Afterwards the stream, I'll smoke some weed and I'll be fine. And now there's a cat, so it's all good.
Oh yeah, because that's you have weed. This is becoming a weekly segment where I remember that other countries are allowed to have weed.
Yeah. And
I have to sit here and have the most luxurious narcotic known to Swedes, which is black tea.
Not what about the secret super mead that you keep?
Oh yeah, mjöd. Mjöd is like not super tasty though. Like it's okay.
Mjöd Mulder.
It's not even strong, by the way. Like mead, people talk about like, oh, I'm gonna drink mead like a big strong Viking. Like you may as well drink like light beer.
Like, if you ever do get into brewing, it should be called Mjöd Mulder.
What?
Just
Mjöd
Mulder.
Oh, Mjöd Mulder. Oh yeah, that's a very good name. I like that.
Yeah, and so also the other thing that came up too was Ontario released its plans for our COVID vaccination rollout, and it's very fun because they claim that so they're going to be starting in a couple weeks to start vaccinating everybody over 80.
Mm-hmm.
And their goal, very ambitious goal, is to start vaccinating people over the age of have everybody over the age of 60 vaccinated by August.
Meaded Mulder, Scully's scoffback.
Wait, by August?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So millennials are probably like, what's it called? While the Americans are like living it up, we're probably going to be still in quarantine until like 2022. And it's just like, can I please have a cup of vaccine, sir?
Well, that's basically where Europe is as well. There's a small part of me that's kind of hoping that like as certain countries start like finishing vaccination, it will become easier for other countries, and like other countries that are sort of lagging behind will kind of catch up by the end. But that's the optimist in me, and the optimist in me also said that COVID would be over by like the summer of last year. So
yeah, we're having a good time.
You know,
this has been
a great time.
Stealth Archer, I wanted to say thank you for subscribing with Meaded Mulder, Scully's Scoffback review. Or Scoffback brew.
Oh, I love that. God. The only thing I'm waiting for now, like, if the pessimist in me wins, I'm just expecting the like hearing news of like a new COVID variant somewhere that's like resistant to all of the vaccines and has a completely different sort of DNA type. So now we have to start all over again with the vaccines. Like, it's unreal. It's not likely to happen, but it might, and that scares me.
My only hope, my only like optimistic outlook for this entire thing is that we get a COVID variant that is much more contagious than the other ones, but is extremely mild in its symptoms, and that it just overtakes the others and it just becomes an endemic disease that we can handle that doesn't kill people. Because that's basically what happened with the Spanish flu. That's why the Spanish flu ended. We didn't actually do a vaccination campaign. It just sort of mutated because
we became immune to most of the things and just sort of went away. Well, it didn't go away. We just like incorporated it into normal sickness.
Yeah. So that's a whole lot. And also this cat is, yeah.
God bless the cat.
Yeah, she's having a whale of a time. She's trying to lick my hand and it's trying to do mouse stuff.
Aww. Give attention. That's what she wants.
Yes. She's very happy.
It's cute.
When did Ontario release more details? So there was a statement last week where they announced what their vaccine rollout plan is going to be. And the idea is basically March 15th, they're going to announce that March 15th, they are going to start vaccinating people who are over the age of 80. And then it's going to go, in April, it's going to move to 75. And then in May, it's going to move to 70. And then in June, it's going to move to 65. And July, it's going to move to 60. And by that, if you follow that, I will get my turn for vaccination will be in January of 2022.
Oh, God. I don't actually know what the information is here in Sweden. I feel like the communication from the government here has been like abysmal. I have no clue what the plan is.
Yeah.
Like at all.
No.
So at least you know that in a full year's time, maybe you'll be vaccinated.
Well, they didn't go past 60. Like, we don't have anticipations on what it's going to be past the summertime.
Okay, so it could be January of 2023.
Yeah, because they basically, here's basically the thing. The provincial government apparently thinks it has better things to do than to manage the vaccine rollout. So they have devolved it to local health units. So like every city has to manage its own vaccine rollout. Because there's something that happens next year, which is that we're going to the polls and doing an election. And so now Doug Ford needs to do anything so he can not be blamed for fucking up the vaccine rollout. So he's going to throw the health units under the bus. It's not me, it's the doctor's fault.
It's the doctors who fucked up COVID. Not me, the leader of the country. Or the province.
Mm-hmm. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be really, like, good times, and everyone's going to enjoy themselves. And half of me is like, people are going to be so fucking pissed at how long this pandemic has gone and how bad it's been managed that Doug Ford, Rob Ford's brother, is going to get knocked out of power. But then again, if there's one thing that history teaches us is that no one ever learns any lessons, and we keep doing the same dumb shit over and over again. So,
yeah, that is the one true lesson that people actually take away from history.
We're just gonna keep doing the same thing forever, guys. It's just
the cycle of history is. The cycle of history is that politicians keep fucking up the same things over and over again on like a 30-year period basis, and historians are just like screaming their heads off constantly. Like a new generation of historian is just like screaming in op-eds somewhere. There's no one to listen to them.
Yeah, we are. Historians are basically. If you've ever heard of the Rome... Here, I'm going to talk about Rome, the most requested thing that I talk about that I know nothing about. Historians are basically the world's Cassandras. and that we've been gifted the ability of seeing the future, but that no one will listen to us.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Phoebe, what are you doing? Keyboard is not
What?
in bed. She's
Not with that attitude.
She was planning on taking a nap on my keyboard.
Good.
Okay.
This is the opposite of a problem.
She's like also trying to get me to stop working.
See, we're looking out for you.
Yeah. Other than that, yeah, so basically, so like that was the plan that was rolled out on like, I think it was like last Monday, is when they do their COVID updates and stuff. And so they're going to be doing this plan, and it's like they can plan out to July that people in their 60s are going to be getting their vaccines in July, but they can't plan anything after that. But then later this week, they also announced that we approved the AstraZeneca vaccine, which means now we've got like 3 instead of 2 vaccines that we can use. So maybe that means supply will go up, which means maybe more vaccine. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm gonna be mad if like the Americans are butt chugging White Claw with their friends this fall, and I have to butt chug White Claw at home by myself because.
Well, I mean, America is probably going to get things sooner because they're just they're not fighting. There's not like a big thing in European politics right now because like European health agencies are sort of like fighting a little AstraZeneca, being like, hey, you promised that you would deliver these many crates and now you're not going to do that, like what the fuck. And AstraZeneca's response has just been like, oh, you want to complain about how much vaccine you get, you complain about getting less vaccine, well now you get no vaccine.
Oh no.
Bye. And then just sending everything to America instead. So that's so, you know, at least not Europe, because I feel like Europe is going to have like vaccine shortages freaking forever.
Yeah, which means that, of course, a year from now, Germany will be 100% they'll be giving Germans 2 vaccines. Meanwhile, like Greece and southern Italy are going to have like, again, please, sir, may I have a cup of vaccine?
That's when the second phase of the European vaccine plan kicks into gear, where it's like the Greeks are allowed to have the vaccine, but only if they do like fascistic border enforcement.
Yeah. And they'll just say like they don't have vaccine because they take too many vacation days, or they have what was the shit they used to say about like they used to be like, oh yeah, the reason the pigs, right? They used to say that the pigs are poor because they take vacation, they just vibe in the sun and paradise instead of being miserable and working like us good Northern Europeans or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big thing during the like Greek financial crash.
Remember when Grexit was the main exit word?
Oh yeah, God, Grexit, good memories. Hey, let's answer some questions.
Yes. Okay.
We've been staying like weirdly on topic without actually answering the questions. We're talking about like history and economy and vaccine rollout, which is like weirdly on brand. We haven't talked about Star Trek or alternate history fiction. So like weirdly, we're on track. So, you know, good on us.
Yeah. There hasn't been much on the Star Trek front lately, that's why.
That's true. Once that happens, that's gonna happen. Now I know what to derail the thing on. Have you seen WandaVision?
Oh, yeah, that show's fun.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna become Marvel heads instead of Star Trek. Sorry, viewers who care about history.
One of the funniest things about WandaVision is that they made this show. Like, this show is very heavily dependent. It's basically like a pseudo sequel to the worst Marvel movie. Like, they took, like, remember the Marvel movie with the robot and the characters that were from X-Men, but they couldn't say they were from X-Men because of legal reasons, so they just...
We're just gonna take the best characters from that and sort of, like, just try again.
Yeah.
Please, do you like the show?
So the show is... but the show's decent. It's definitely, like, wow, I didn't anticipate Disney would try something different that's new.
Right? Because it's actually like weirdly innovative in the television format. Like, good on them. I mean, not good on them. They're a horrifying company that like is having an entertaining monopoly, but still, good show.
Yeah. Oh, here we go again. Okay. So the first question we got here, I think, is from a follow-up on our talk about bodily autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, do you think one can make an argument for why bodily autonomy is good or killing is bad? Or are those things just axiomatic, fundamentally true? Like if you were having a debate with someone who thought the state should be able to harvest the organs of its citizens, what would you say?
I mean, people who think that, I mean, if they like that, there is a logic there, right? Like people could argue that, and the logic that they could use could be completely valid and sound. Like it could be completely logical to argue that a government should be able to harvest the organs of their citizens. You could use some sort of Vulcan argument, being like, the greater good or whatever. But that's not a society that we live in, and that's not a society that I would want to live in either. If anyone would want to live in such a society, that's fine. But like I don't want to live in a society like that, so I would work against a society like that. That's not really like a philosophical question about like bodily autonomy or not. I think that's just more like a.
I guess like the way that if you want like the very like we want no emotions, just straight philosophy, straight logic. You have to think about like these things about like. I guess the debate is who owns you, your body, who owns it, and if you to me, I would think that the better case would be made is that you are the one who owns your body, and not the sort of state organization, which is a sort of superstructural thing that we've built up on top of our egos. That the ego came first and has rights to it. I don't know how strong that would be, and honestly, this is the part where philosophy starts to invert its head up its own ass and starts being like, how do you determine that a thing is right or wrong? And it's like, okay, dude.
Yeah. Well, like I think it's a good question though, because like, I hate using the human element argument, but that's kind of where we're at. But if we look at history argument, like we had quite a few political movements over the last like 1,000 years that have determined that individuals have rights, and if individuals have rights, that kind of goes against the practicality of the other side, right?
Yeah, the strongest bodily autonomy argument that I would probably point out is that the people who are against bodily autonomy specifically in the area of abortions tend to believe in bodily autonomy when it comes to other things. And if you could have a logically consistent person who thinks abortion is bad because your body does not belong to you, it belongs to the state, and that they then are like okay with like randomly killing people so that you can harvest their organs to save multiple other people's lives. And it's like, okay, if you can, that is a logically consistent worldview, but it basically is, you are basically firmly held axiomatically to believe that all autonomy and power belongs in the hands of the state, which okay, that's a take. But a lot of the times, that's not usually what a lot of people who are anti-abortion argue. A lot of people who are anti-abortion would argue, I guess, you can go two ways about it, which is one, they have sort of more conservative, more liberal beliefs when it comes to other things. So they believe in property rights for people who own houses, but don't believe in the property rights of a person to own their own body. Then it's like, okay, that's an inconsistency. But yeah, I think the argument ends when you're just like, no, I believe the state should own everything. I am what we like to call a hyper-fascist.
You're not dealing with an ordinary fascist now, Kakarot.
Yeah, for real.
I'm not a fascist. I'm a super fascist. Who was it who said that again?
That was from a H Bomber Guy video. I don't remember.
No, there was a philosophy video. Abby did that. Julius Evola said that on trial in 1951.
Oh right.
I'm not a fascist. I'm a super fascist.
Okay.
Ah!
But yeah, it's at that point, like the ability to discuss sort of breaks down, and you're like, to go back to our typical haunts. It's like trying to negotiate with the Borg at that point. Because that's essentially what the Borg are.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's definitely true. Join the collective. Yeah, no, we're... Yeah. No, this is a good invention.
And
you got a
while...
super chat.
Oh, I did? Oh, yes. Thank you. Did you buy the MCU as modern mythology argument, or did you think something that corporate can count as mythology?
I think it could. I think it could be viewed as a sort of modern mythology, depending on what you mean by mythology.
Like, I don't think... Yeah, I'm like trying to think, like, did people... Because, like, does mythology require that the people of the time it was prevalent in believe that it's real? Or does it just... Like, did people of, like, ancient Greece think that, like, Heracles was a real person and that he really beat up lions and stuff like that? And I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to know.
But having powerful...
But in the same way, like... Yeah, having... Yeah, you...
To kind of go, I don't know how Jungian, but having, like, characters, like fictional characters that are prevalent in multiple stories that represent archetypical ideals of the society that we're in, then yeah, that whether or not it's corporatized or not, it is what it is.
Yeah.
That's why, like, you know, some of them I would say are like myths. I don't know. I could see like Superman, who's been like, it's been like almost 100 years now since Superman was made, and he's supposed to actually be like an archetype of everything that's good about America, the world superpower. And
well, like people that have ideas about like how Superman should be, right? Like that exists outside of the fiction of the comic books.
Yeah.
Like people have an idea of what is Superman-ish.
I don't know if a lot of MCU characters have been around long enough to really have that kind of like cultural impact. Like Captain America, like the thing is like people don't, this is the part, okay, Zoomers, you're gonna like, this might be tough. But like there was a time when like they were like, we're gonna do this Avengers thing and we're gonna have Captain America and Iron Man and we're gonna do these, and everyone's like, "Wow, you're really bringing out the B-listers, huh, for this one?"
Yeah, the like, B-listers
like
of no Iron Man.
Yeah, like I can remember the days of being like, "Man, like Marvel's so desperate because they don't have their X-Men and they don't have their Spider-Man that they're going to go to like their second tier like Iron Man. Like, who the fuck's heard of Iron Man? Like, that's like the guy from the Black Sabbath song, or Captain America, which everyone was like, this is just this goofy weirdo that like nobody cares about outside of comics world. And then it happened.
And then suddenly an entire franchise.
Yeah, and then suddenly we're having serious talks about Squirrel Girl being a TV show, and what's it called? And there being a multi-million-dollar Ant-Man movie. So we've things have changed.
Oh, yeah, I remember because people kind of woke up to this sort of like view when Ant-Man was announced, being like, Ant-Man, that's kind of stupid. Why would it make Ant-Man? And then so everyone had to realize that, like, oh yeah, all of these superheroes are just as silly as fucking Ant-Man.
Yeah. So that's
and now Ant-Man is like one of my favorite Marvel movies.
Yeah, I mean Ant-Man is yeah, there's only a few good Marvel movies, like genuinely good ones, and that one like legit hit like some points about like, oh, these things can be fun. It's a heist movie that just masquerades as a superhero movie. But anyways, so that's like, that is about modern myth. Like, if these things stick around for a long time, sure. I do think though, like the superhero as mythological figure makes perfect sense to me. And every introduction to superheroes in like literature classes starts with like Gilgamesh and stuff like that. So that's fine. Because I think mythology usually are just stories that are so commonly known that we can sort of like Darmok and Jalad, we can kind of just reference them as a way to understand things about our culture and the world and such. So, and I think Superman could fit that. Like, most people have a passing idea of what a Superman is. I don't know if we can do that with like Tony Stark, his arms wide. I don't know if we can do that yet.
No, probably not.
But we're definitely like
Spider-Man swinging at Brooklyn.
Yeah. But I think that we are, if things keep going the way they are, then yeah, we probably could get there. I think that also superhero movies, if we ever get to a situation in our lives where the world is getting better, not worse, superheroes will probably lose a lot of their cachet. Because right now, we just want the power fantasy of being able to make the world a better place with feeling so powerless. And if we weren't in that situation, I feel like they would lose a lot of their our interest. But at the moment, while we're all miserable, dreaming about being able to have the power to stop all the world's problems is enticing.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question we got here is, when you were at university or college, did your coursework involve you mostly memorizing things and regurgitating them on tests and quizzes, or did you instead have to write long essays and be analytical? As much as I hate writing essays I don't care about, I'd rather do that than memorize some facts.
Oh, it's essays. Essays all the way down.
Yeah. I think in undergrad I had it was based course by course. Like, I remember I took an Indigenous Studies class, and I had to have an exam where I had to remember a whole bunch of, like, Swahili names and stuff like that, so that I could barf them out on a piece of paper and then instantly forget them. But for the most part, like...
Yeah, throughout my entire history degree, I only had to take one test, and it was the first, like after Freshers Week, where we just had to remember, like, what is ancient Greece?
Yeah.
Who is Plato? And like after that, it's all essays for like 3 years.
Someone just said, are you saying superhero movies are anti-capitalist fantasies? Not necessarily. I think they are just fantasies of people who feel powerless. Like Tony Stark is an example of a power fantasy that is not anti-capitalist. It's like, man, I wish I was rich enough that I could change the world type thing.
Yeah, it's literally the exact type of like idealization that people have with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Literally the same type of people. So is Elon Musk. Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't movie Tony Stark modeled off of Elon Musk or something?
I don't know. Like, not really. This is something that's like a weird point of. This is like a weird drama thing. People say that, but I'm not sure it's super true. Because like in the comics, Tony Stark is also kind of like he is in the movies. It's a sort of like weird thing where like both of them sort of convened into the Iron Man personality.
Yeah. Although one is a genius one's a genius who invents things, and the other one is a genius at pretending like he invents things. I'll just tell you, everybody, Elon Musk doesn't know how to make a rocket ship. He doesn't know the first fucking thing about rockets. He knows how to have other people invent rockets and then pretend like he did.
Yeah. It's like Tony in the comics was definitely more like he is in the movies, you know? It just happens that Elon Musk is the same type of like ultra pretentious rich douchebag.
Yeah.
It just happens to have a like similar aesthetic.
Yeah. So sorry, back on the thing about school. So when I was an undergrad, certain percentages of my courses had exams, certain percentage of them didn't. It really was up to I think it was up to the teachers, and the teachers had different preferences. I know that I had I think the happy medium I had is I had one professor, the American history professor at my undergrad, so you can tell that this made an impact on me, is that he would have exams, but they would be all essay questions. And one of the things that he had is that he infamously let you take in a index card. So you could take an index card and you could write anything you wanted on the index card. And so people became masters of trying to fit smaller and smaller amounts of notes and text onto an index card. And it was a way for you to sort of pull away like all the things that you thought were the most important in the course, so that when the essay questions came up, you could refer to them as part of your work.
Pretty smart.
It seemed to work really well. Then some that just had like a take-home exam, which is just like where you have a week to write an essay, basically.
Oh yeah, but that's everything that I did too.
Yeah.
I only had, the only time I ever had to, that's the first test I ever had to do was some memorization and one essay question, like in a hall. Everything else for 3 years was take home, write essays and articles, and that's all I did.
Yeah, I remember I had a take-home exam that was for Reading Week, which is like this week that we get off in March. And I went to Mexico. And in fact, actually, this was March exactly 10 years ago when this happened. I had a take-home exam, and I went to Mexico City to see my friend and see a bunch of Aztec ruins. And then when I came back, I realized that I was like, oh, I'm home, and this thing's due tomorrow, and I've done literally no work on this thing. But then when I got home, I got caught in like the biggest snowstorm that I've ever seen. Like, we got like, I think almost like 60 centimeters of snow the day I came home from Mexico, which was, quite a thing. And so they gave us a snow day, and I actually like managed to finish it. So, God intervened on my part. But if you're talking about grad school, when you get to grad school, you stop taking tests. You have the closest thing you get to a test in grad school is for your thesis, or I don't know, for your PhD, you have to do something called your comprehensive exams, which is where you spend a year reading like, I probably read in that 1 year like 150 books or something like that. And then you have to, it's a take-home exam. You have it's a 3-week take-home exam where you have 1 week to write an essay for 3 weeks in a row. So you write 3 essays. It's quite intense. And also, while I was writing mine, that was when Donald Trump got elected. So it was like pretty tough. I had one day where I wasn't super productive. But anyways, for the most part, like when you're writing papers and when you're in classes in grad school and you're writing papers for it, it starts to become fairly likely, or at least they hope that if one of these essays goes really well, that you might want to try, beefing it up and submitting it to a journal or something. So typically they're going to avoid tests for things that are like, more something that you can make, that you could potentially get publishable content out of, because you are, what's it called? Academics are stealthy content creators because they have to make journal articles and books to keep their jobs.
Listen, we're all content creators when it comes down to it.
It's all content.
All types of academics, both former and current.
It's all content down here. What's it called? What's the monkey, or not the monkey? The clown in that Stephen King. It's just like all content washes down here.
God.
Hi. Can I help you? Okay.
Are you being bothered by the cat?
She's just like sitting here and then just staring at me with like her like angry evil eyes.
It's eyes of love, Tristan.
I know, but Phoebe's got like resting grumpy face, so she always looks like she's mad. Okay. Next question we got here is in 2019, before the UK elections, Jeremy Corbyn was asked about a terrorist attack that happened then and said the focus should be on rehabilitation. I was talking to a friend when they said that he was stupid because he would scare away votes. If such a thing happens, should we blame a politician for telling a belief that may be unpopular, or is it the fault of the electorate for not understanding the principle behind such a stance? This also can apply to Bernie praising Cuba's healthcare and literacy programs, since neither politician condoned terrorism or authoritarianism, just mentioned something they believed was right. I mean, first of all, the first thing that comes to mind is you have to remember the incredible bad faith that was poured towards these people during their campaigns. Like Jeremy Corbyn literally had a scandal made out of him refusing to start World War III because he said that he would not use a nuclear first strike.
Yeah.
So
how dare you not wanting to rain down nuclear weapons without provocation?
But I remember they tried to make an actual issue out of that. Like,
yeah, they tried to make an issue out of the fact that he was riding a bicycle to work. His Maoist bicycle.
And if we've learned anything about Bernie, misogynistically sitting in chairs with mittens on.
With mittens on in the middle of January. In a cold snap.
He's just sitting there misogynistically. Yeah, so it just shows like in many times when they are like there is something to be said about like, oh yeah, like I like the thing is Bernie, but like it's different, there's different political cultures obviously, but Bernie, by like praising Cuba's literacy programs, could have shown like you can interpret it as, yo, yeah, he's saying things that are unpopular, but it's like in America, like they almost valorize saying the unpopular thing that's true. Like he's like, I'm not going to be politically correct here, and I'm going to say that Cuba actually had a good literacy program, because there is like something about like how some Americans appreciate that kind of honesty. It's just because there's so much artifice and bullshit attached to politicians. But yeah, so I think it would have helped, except for the fact that the consent manufacturers were were gunning for both of these people, and so they were doing whatever they could to make them look bad.
As is tradition.
Yeah.
With any type of leftist politician.
You'll have to watch out for is that she's decided that she wants to chew on my headphone cable.
Based.
And so she's like, I want to nuzzle you, but actually, give me that headphone cable. Do you have anything you want to add to that, or?
No, I think you said it perfectly. It was a great answer.
Well,
okay, fine. I think that there is this sort of, like, on one end, yeah, but on the other end, there is also like, you know, these people also have to understand that they do exist within this sort of framework where people will take anything they say and use it against them. So I think it's okay to ask politicians to at least be mindful of that. I think it's perfectly fine to do to answer the way that they did, obviously, and like the fault here isn't with them; it is with the sort of bad faith, like pylon. But at the same time, like you could also say that, like, well, you know, people are gonna use this in the wrong way, and like there's a time and place to sort of utter that, to sort of navigate the bad faith criticism. Like you still have to do politics, like the shady type of politics, like a little bit, just so you can avoid the very worst of it.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, that's fair. They both Corbyn and Sanders, I think a lot of times their downfall was thinking as if the game was fair and not rigged in their favor, and in some ways they learned a little bit. Like Bernie had the independent counts of the Iowa caucus because they knew there was going to be some bullshit. But I think that a lot of the postmortems of like the Bernie campaign, I don't know much about the Corbyn campaign's postmortems, because they seem to learn, oh, we just need like Tony Blair to Electric Boogaloo or whatever Keir Starmer is. But
you're not wrong.
For the Bernie campaign, a lot of it was they relied too much on thinking that they were ever going to get any sort of positive coverage from mainstream media, and they thought that they could maybe get positive coverage, and it never worked out. And they probably should have realized that there was never going to be winning there, and you should have tried to figure out how to win without that. And then there's the question about whether they could have, because it seems that Democrats, specifically like party members who vote in primaries, are way more like they they believe basically whatever a rich person tells them to believe, more than even Republicans, I would say. And so they were a lot more amenable to, like, if MSNBC says you're bad, you're bad.
You're not wrong.
And then, of course, there was, you know, a panoramic pizza that fucked up everything. The global panoramic pizza. COVID killed, caused a lot of problems too.
Oh yeah, of course. Panoramic pizza.
I know on TikTok there's this idea that if you use certain words, that they're going to bury your videos in the algorithm. Pretty, you know, for us, you know, pretty sympathetic thing. And so oftentimes when they say pandemic, they're going to say panoramic pizza or panda or something, because they think, because if you say anything related to COVID, they have like this little thing like, learn the truth about COVID here, to stop the conspiracy stuff. Okay, the next question we got here is media analysis question. Is there one of many male gazes? 2, is the male gaze inherently bad, both generally and in terms of eroticizing women? Or 3, in a world where sexism has been obliterated in the media, would there be no gaze or multiple gazes?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, that's a sort of like philosophical question just in feminism generally, right? Like, how do you measure? What is it? What does how do you measure a potential equality in that situation? Like, you can measure, for example, that you can like argue that multiple gazes are better than having like one primary one, right? Like just the male gaze, because the male gaze right now is like baked into a lot of like patriarchal ideas and power structures that like don't really work that well for
the non-men's.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, you know, there are people who are using terms like female gaze to refer to like a completely other type of like beauty standard. It really depends, because like the term male gaze like means so many different things depending on what you're using it for.
Yeah.
Like it's really hard to define. Like, yeah, I don't know if there's one right answer here, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because like coming to the thing that comes to mind for me is like, okay, so like the male gaze, it's the idea that like all of our storytelling is told as if it's like default from a male character's perspective. And so it's things that are specifically like who the assumed audience of the movie of the product is, and if it's and it's almost assumed to be a heterosexual man, and so like is the idea that we need to have more gazes, so we have movies where the assumed audience is not a man but a different thing, like do we need more what was that male stripper movie that everyone liked a while back?
Magic Mike.
Do we need more Magic Mikes, or do we want to try and get rid of having assumed audiences to gaze in any of our media and change that up?
Yeah.
And then in my mind, I just think like, well, variety is the spice of life in art, and I would imagine you'd want to play with that a lot. If to eliminate any of those things would be constraining on artistic expression.
Yeah, like, and then it's also like down to a question of like definitions, because like if we have a multitude of gazes, not just the male gaze, does the term of like gaziness even work anymore? Because the term male gaze is like coined to like refer to like one specific thing that stands out from a variety of different things, that doesn't one phenomenon that doesn't like easily bake into other types of like demographic analysis, right? So if there are many, we've kind of just like reinvented the term for intended audience.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's fine if that's what we want to do, but like then then we're not really having multiple gazes. We're just having another term for intended audience.
So if you have a like, I'm trying to think of like the male gaze. I'm trying to think of like the most like male gazy movie I can think of, and it's like every Woody Allen movie, but also
yes.
but like also I always think of like the way that they treated Megan Fox in those Transformers movies. I only ever saw the one, but the fact that like anytime she was doing normal human things like fixing cars, it was like she was sexy fixing cars.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. That's sort of like the stuff that comes to mind when I think of like male gaze in literature and film and whatnot. And I guess like apparently the question comes down to, is there a way to do that that's not objectifying, or do you need to remove that entire idea altogether?
Well, I think it is possible to do. Well, I mean, in an ideal society, like
is horny posting objectifying?
Consensual and mutual objectification, I think, is fine.
Can one horny post guilt-free, bonk-free?
I mean, I think you can, if you are in a setting with people who are all into this in the same way. Like a big, obviously, like, and if you can do that, in like a respectful, fun way, you can do that. I'm not gonna sit here and kink shame. It's just that like the way a lot of people are doing it is like very exploitative and harmful and sort of like fetishistic in a bad way. Like those things are bad. I'm not sure like the horned part of it is, I think it's fine. Or can be fine.
Yeah, and also these things are. It's also like in the context of what they are. Like the thing is like what's it called? Michael Bay just being horny in movies is like objectively neutral, but in the context of a society of women constantly being like thought of as subject rather than object or sub. Oh man, we're getting into some real literature words. When they're thought of as object to be desired rather than the object that does desiring, that in a context where there is a stark power imbalance between men and women, then that's where things get problematic. And many ways, instead of like thinking about it like intentionally or whatnot, which I think is kind of where one of the things where liberal people tend to fall flat, is that instead of like seeing these as like this is the problem, the media is the bad thing that needs to be solved, instead of seeing media more as the organic output of the culture that we live in, and the culture needs to change and the media will change along with it, because if we lived in a society where women were not treated as objects, then something like a Michael Bay objectifying Megan Fox would just like the culture would just be like, that's so fucking weird, why would you do this? That's sort of. What about the cat gaze? Yeah, I'm experiencing that right now.
You are definitely, yeah. You are definitely being seen as an object of.
I do like the idea. Somebody studied that cats, while like dogs see you as like their masters and like stuff, cats just see you as apparently like one of their kittens.
Yeah, they think we're big stupid cats.
Yeah,
who can't take care of ourselves.
So
I love that like so much, because like we feed them, house them, and take care of them, and they think they're taking care of us.
We do love them though.
We do love them.
Okay, so the next question we got here is, if you got time for one more question.
Yeah, let's keep going. Like I'm not rushing for time.
So this is by our favorite Slovenian. This is about a question about our favorite Slovenian philosopher of ideology.
Yes.
Yeah. So Slavoj Žižek said in many interviews that he critiques localist and anarchist movements because he thinks bottom-up movements and everyday localist politics aren't something that people could do consistently. he specifically says that he wants a society where he does stuff while not having to deal with every single detail of politics that a bureaucracy would deal with otherwise. How do we respond to this? So, okay, so we put ourselves...
I feel like you know more about like anarchist structuring than I do, so I think I'm gonna leave this one to you.
So like the thing about... So, okay, this is like the kind of, the way that people think about, like, he's kind of like a Stalinist, and also it reflects a lot of the ways that liberals tend to think about, like, well, as long as the right party is the one that has the power to dominate, then, because I don't want to have to worry about the politics of every little thing I do, I just want the state to make sure everything is good by my standards by putting that person in charge. And, like... I understand that need to, like, not have to worry about the politics of every little thing you do. I do. The problem is that, one, that's not a thing you can really remove yourself from. And honestly, like...
We do live in a society.
We do, unfortunately, live in a society. But, like, the thing is, that is always assuming a system in which somebody who supports... or is doing, like, you know, ethical and good things are always in control, which in large states is not always the case. And in the situation where you have, like, large states and big state apparatus, if something goes wrong, it goes wrong in a big way. Because, like, if you end up with, like, a brutal dictator in a country, all of a sudden you have doomed millions of people to a society that is unethical and cruel and violent and everything. While, like, under anarchist rule, the idea is that if you dislike, if you, like, any sort of, like, tin pot dictator would be limited to, like, a 1-block radius. And so it'd be very easy for everyone else to be like, hey, let's get rid of this dictator, because it would take, like, 5 guys to just show up with a baseball bat to take him out. And so I guess, like, if you want to go by the idea that there's inherently never going to be, like, truly ethical leadership and people are, the flesh is weak type stuff, then keeping the amount of impact of that as small as possible seems like it would be a better idea. Because, like, right now we've got a situation where we've got the United States acting as a rogue country that does, like, wars of aggression and breaks every rule of warfare, and nobody can stop them because they are just too big. So, like,
do you know one fact that, like, really threw me for a loop when I found it out?
What's up?
That, like, The Hague can't do anything in the US, like, at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they don't respect the International War Crimes Tribunal.
Yeah, if I remember correctly,
so many of them.
Anybody on the Security Council can veto a decision by the War Crimes Tribunal, and therefore the United States can always just, if the United States ever gets condemned for war crimes, they can just veto.
Like,
no, we didn't. And while that doesn't happen for the United States, because everyone knows to not charge the United States on war crimes, they have used it over and over and over again to cover for Israel. Every time Israel gets brought up on human rights abuses, they just stamp that shit out.
No, they didn't. Control Z, just, like, white out.
Yeah. The Security Council is, like, fucking bullshit is the answer.
It's so bullshit. If the UN ever falls apart, it's going to be because of that.
Now, I do think, though, that if we lived in a sort of more localist anarchist situation, that the sort of, like, feeling like, oh, I don't want to deal with politics. Like, I do think that there's, if you want to go, like, a Marxist sense, I do think that we feel alienated from politics because we get this strong feeling like politics doesn't matter how we vote or what things we care about. It doesn't change anything in daily life. But I do think that if we lived in a more localist anarchist type situation where, your beliefs about how things should be only extend to, like, a couple hundred people, you have way more of an ability to actually, like, be invested and make those changes.
You can actually, like, but you also, like, know how everything works and why it works the way it does. Like,
yeah.
Whenever I read, like, American laws, at all, like, or American like political proposals, they're all written in like complicated legalese, which is impossible to understand. So,
and
like,
intentionally written so.
Yeah, so people don't understand what their politicians are up to. Seems healthy.
Yeah, and so if, in many ways, I think that like a lot of times people who are like, oh, like what, like how would you run an anarchist society? People would just be checked out. You know, they would just want to play Xbox and masturbate, and that's it. And then they wouldn't do any work to keep society functioning. And it's like, well, not really. Like I feel like anybody who understands Marxism would understand that the reason why people just want to play Xbox and vibe right now is because they feel like their labor is being alienated, and also that they have no power over what happens in the world. And so you just check out. It's a coping mechanism. And that if you had a world where like if I had a world where I and the neighborhood could just like decide on our laws and decide on what we're going to do and what not to do, goddamn, I would be so much more invested in stuff, because it's like I don't have to convince 20 million people to not end the world. We could just be like, I have to convince like 20 people to deal with green energy stuff on our thing. Hi.
This cat, it wants like food or cuddles so bad.
Yeah.
I haven't really.
She also has this really funny thing that she does, which I think you'll find amusing, which is that she loves headbutting my face, as cats do.
Mm-hmm.
But because I have a beard, that scratches her eye. And so like she'll like come and look at me, and she'll have like one of her eyes closed because she's like instinctively learned to like close that eye before she goes to headbutt me.
Oh my god, that's the cutest. That's the cutest.
So sometimes she'll just be like, look up at me, and just one of her eyes are just closed. And it's like, oh, hi.
Oh my god. That's the cutest shit in the world.
Here, there's one last question that I feel like you would be better able to answer than I could.
All right. I'll answer that one, and then I'll head out to upload my video.
Alrighty. So, how large could the European Union realistically get? As in countries joining before the Union federalizes or goes, enough map go change.
Assuming it doesn't fall apart from any of these things, there's no limit. Like there's really no limit. But like as it stands right now, I'm guessing that's the question, right? Like how far in like the current state of things would it be able to do? I mean, I think it's kind of at its limit right now. Like I feel like the European Union is like as big as it can possibly be, as it is in the current state of how it exists. I feel like once you start including countries like Turkey, for example, or something, or more Balkan countries, or more Eastern European countries, at that point there are so many variables. There are already too many variables. Like we already have complete chaos in the European Parliament. So yeah, like this big, as big as it is right now.
Yeah,
pretty much.
The EU,
like it's either going to, from here, it's either going to like stay as it is, fall apart entirely, or become some sort of like more centralized type of state or whatever, or federalized.
Yeah, it does sound like the EU has to decide whether it wants to. It's got to grow closer or fall apart, and they have to make that choice. And it's going to be a lot up to the fact that the next couple years, France and Germany both go to the polls. So depends a lot about whether or not Macron gets reelected, and whoever replaces Angela Merkel is going to be.
There's not a chance in hell Macron's going to get reelected. Not a chance in anything.
So we'll see what happens when President Le Pen and whatever the new Chancellor of Germany is going to be. I imagine I'm just going by like random people I know in Germany. I imagine it'll be Chancellor DJ Disco Beats, or what's it called? DJ Disco Funk. That's the name of. That's the thing. Like I got this email from a Nazi the other day that was like, "You're making fun of my proud German heritage," and it's like this guy who lives in like America, and I was just like, the proud I always think of like every time I think about that stuff, I think about that scene from The Simpsons where they like they get the Nazi art from that like underwater chest, and it's like, we're going to return this to its rightful heir, and it's just like this like complete like Eurotrash guy who's like, hey, don't move my disc changer in the trunk, and it's like just like moves away playing this you know, electronic like techno beats and stuff, and it's like,
yeah,
I want the German stereotype of like the compulsive nightclub goer to be the thing.
I mean, they do exist. I feel like that's very much like a Berlin culture thing.
Hey, watch the CD changer. Yeah, like what's it called? Like I want the guys who made that song Disco Pogo to be the like Chancellor of Germany. I don't know anything. Diatzen, I think, is the name of the group.
I don't know anything about Germany, honestly.
I spent one semester with German exchange students, and they really liked the song Disco Pogo, which is possibly the most German. Like, Deutschland über alles has nothing on a song with a name like Disco Pogo.
Disco Pogo is the most German song.
Yeah.
But all that, I think I'm going to head out because I have a video that's going to be released in like 2 hours, maybe 3. Hopefully not. So sorry that I gotta duck out early. But also, if your jaw keeps hurting, remember to like, it's okay to take a break.
All right, it's tolerable right now.
Okay.
First, before you go though, you should tell everybody where to consume Mia content in a few hours.
You can consume Mia content on my YouTube channel at you just go to miamulder.com and you'll find it. That's basically all I have to say. Yeah. That's gonna be my next video. By the way, I liked your video on the what's it called, the Maroons.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad. That video.
Very good.
I'm very proud of it. It a lot of people did not watch it, so I would love if more people did.
You should go watch it if you're in this. You have the time after Tristan stops streaming. But yeah, I'm gonna.
All right, have a good one.
I'm gonna yeet. See you next week, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, it's just you and me for the next hour. Okay. If you really want a German song, it's Abfahrt by Finch Azoziel. Oh boy. Yeah, I guess Disco Pogo's too old now, huh? I just like that. Also, keep in mind, this is how you know it's the most German song, is that the chorus for Disco Pogo's lyrics are specifically this. Disco Pogo, ding-a-ling-a-ling, ding-a-ling-a-ling, Aden Ofsen sing. And that is it. That is the chorus of the song. Very German. Very German. Okay. Hello, cat. You're being very cute today. Hey. Don't bite. All right, the next video we got here, the next question we got here is Phoebe is sitting on the keyboard. Okay. Let's see. What do you think an Iroquois confederacy that industrializes with its great law of peace as its constitution and form of government and matriarchal system guiding would look like? Specifically, I think that industrialization would be, first of all, like, okay, so the thing about the Great Law of Peace is that it has consensus decision-making and a focus on more long-term thinking. And so I think industrialization under that would be a slower, more deliberate process with greater consideration about the effect on the environment. There, I think that while it would be a slower process, possibly even like a process that we wouldn't do as much, it would be definitely like thing about like kind of that consensus decision making is that decisions. It's a lot more of a conservative decision-making process in that it's much less likely to take risks and thinks more in the long term, because you need to make sure that if you have consensus decision-making, it means that everybody has to agree to it. So my guess is that industrialization would be something that would be done with like a strong effort to make sure that it minimally impacts the people around it, and that its benefits prosper for everybody who is involved. Because you would need to have, at least in some way, you would need to have it so that all of the nations of the Confederacy agree to it before you could even start doing it. Which, as you can imagine, which means that a lot of things like externalities based through capitalism would not happen in the way that we do it here, because you wouldn't be able to just disregard a lot of people's positions, I guess. So, let's see. What we got next? Happens in years of race and salt. Do I want to do a duo stream about Jonestown witches, Shinrikyo or something sometime? Possibly. I have been. I'm like feeling a little flustered because right now I'm really behind on a lot of my work, but maybe when I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable in my projects. I'm sort of adjusting to a new, some new projects into my system right now, and it's burning me out. Okay. And by burning me out, I mean I'm not doing more work, it's just that I'm kind of far behind on some of my other work. So there's a lot of things that I would like to make progress on that I've not made as much progress on as I would like. As for a textbook that's a good resource to Introduction to North American Indigenous People, gosh, I can't even remember the textbook that I used. I took an Indigenous Studies course when I was an undergrad, and I could not tell you right now what the textbook of it was. It was so long ago, and I think it was very Canadian focused. I'm sorry, I don't have anything off the top of my head for you right now. Sorry. Do I like electro swing? I don't. Maybe. I don't know what that is. Okay. Do you think that the future that leftist Canadians and parts of the United States will join together and become one country, and right-leaning areas like Alberta in the U.S. and Southwest country, how do you feel about it? I don't see it as very likely. I don't think that that's a thing that's going to happen. States don't typically like to concede territory like that. Governments don't tend to make those kinds of like larger vision decisions. And that the Canadian government, whether right-wing or left-wing, would, if it was still a country, like still a state, would still be for keeping and using the state mechanisms to violently oppress anybody who disagreed with the whims of the state. That's more of a thing that they would do rather than actually like do like an exchange of territory. How does a modernized Haudenosaunee work in the Years of Rice and Salt? I can't remember. I read that book a while ago now. And, I read a lot of books, so I'd have to go back and remember what it was. Oh boy. Okay, I haven't been in the stream the last couple times. I apologize if you answered my older submitted question on this, but have you considered doing a video on the upheaval/Great Railroad Strike in the St. Louis commune? I mean, possibly. And I think I used that, last time you asked this question, I used it as an example to talk about why I'm against the idea of people telling me what to make my videos about. That's just a list of things, but it's like, okay, have you considered dedicating an entire month to reading a bunch of books about this topic? Like, I need something more than just like, you should do a video on this. You have to like the times when I've actually made videos based on people's suggestions came primarily from times when people pitched an idea for a video, and I had to, and I like what's it called? Like I've had videos where people gave me a suggestion and I went with it because they pitched it as a video idea, and when they pitched it, they told me about. Oh no, I just did a mistake. 1 second. I sent the wrong file to somebody. But like you need to get. I need like stuff like story ideas. Because like the thing is, it's easy to make a video. It's easy to make a video on something, and then or to suggest a topic. Like there's endless topics out there of videos on things that I could talk about. There are interesting topics, but the main thing you need to do is you need to tell a story. You need to put together a cohesive narrative that's interesting and, you know, has people's emotions get moved and those kinds of things. And that's where I need that's what I need. Like I need something where like it'd be cool, like, oh yeah, do a video on this commune. Well, it's like, okay, well, like, tell me why I should do it. What's interesting about it? What is, like, is there a cool character? Is there, like, a story involved? Is, like, does it say something really important? Like, something more than just, like, here's a topic, do that, if that makes sense. Because otherwise, yeah, then I'd just be doing a university lecture, and those can be boring. So, and when I have to sort through hundreds... Like, I've had several ways to try and get people to submit video ideas to me, and I always end up stopping them because I end up with hundreds of video topics, and, like, it takes a lot of time to investigate every single one to, like, look for the story within it. And so if somebody wants to pitch a story at me, it'd be easy to just, like, be like, here's a topic, go and look into it yourself and find out if there's anything, if this is even a topic worth doing. And it's like, all right, I already do that with the things that I come across. If you have something that's like, you know, doing the work of like, oh, like there's this really cool story about this person who did this thing, and like that's like a thing. That's like the way to like really get me sold, you know. Like St. Andrew pitched the idea of like Queen Nanny and the Maroons and everything, and I was like, oh, this is cool, okay. Because, yeah, the thing is, you always have to think, like, story first. And, then you can go through things from there. Yeah, Mia had to leave a little bit early so that she could get, she has a video coming out today, so she had to get it uploaded and everything like that. Yeah. Okay, what do we got next? Is voting third party in the U.S. enabling fascism? I mean, it's a bit grandiose of a way to speak about it, because if you're voting third party, you're just wasting your vote for the most part. You're not, like, it's very rare that your vote is going to matter enough that it's actually going to change the results of an election. But like I think like there's only been like one time in history that's ever been the case. If that. I don't even know if that was the case at the time. So, I don't know. I think that you're flattering yourself by thinking that like voting like Green or something like that, a party that got 0.3% of the popular vote in the most recent presidential election, is going to make any difference either way. So is it enabling fascism? I mean, like, if it is, it's not what they're intending to do, and either way, you're not making that much of a difference in either fashion anyway. Okay. Alrighty, let's see. But yeah, the thing is, like, when people are talking about the thing about interesting topics, the thing about interesting topics and being able to find the story in it, that's sort of like the core of the skill set of journalism. And that's sort of the important work that needs to be done to be a successful journalist. And so, as like someone who's trying to make content that's compelling and such, like that, that is the difficult part. And getting good at finding a academic topic and turning it into a story that is compelling, that is the complicated, difficult part of being a content creator. And so, if you really want me to cover a subject, like finding that story or pitching that story is like the thing that's going to make it a lot easier to do. So would you consider yourself as a historical journalist? Like, I think my work is public facing, and yeah, I guess like historical journalism is like the closest thing that I could say to what I'm doing. Cause like, if I was just like a straight up history teacher on YouTube, my videos would be a lot more like a textbook and a lot more academic, and they'd be more like, I don't know, like Crash Course, for example. But I find that content is, while it's, useful in like a classroom setting, it's not doing very much to change a popular understanding of history. And that you have to do more storytelling to try and reach out to people and make that hook. If that makes sense. Because people are not like, if you're going to make something that's on a topic and very academic, it could be interesting for the people who already find history interesting. But if you want to reach out to people who don't necessarily think that history is for them, and history as a field is very much like skewed in a way so that, not a lot of people of color and women and like other marginalized voices, are told, so they don't really feel like history is for them, and so history gets its reputation of being this thing like for white dudes. And so if you need to break that, you need to reach out to people who don't necessarily think that history is like awesome, and showing them why. Phoebe is bored. She's like playing with stuff. When Robert Evans is behind the bastard counts as history journalism. I do think so, yeah. That's why it's so popular. Do you think that there's a problem with needing to find a compelling story for people to find news or history relevant? Like, one of the problems to say unjust incarcerations is that there are interesting stories that get made into documentaries that ultimately get people freed, but if your story is boring, you won't. So there's the idea of like, you want the compelling story, but you want to use the compelling story to talk about the larger subject. If you don't use the story of someone who's been largely incarcerated to talk about the issues of incarceration in general, then you're just telling a story without any substance. But if you're telling a story about the badness of the incarceration system without showing like, the human impact of it, you're making something that has no blood. So being able to educate as well as tell a compelling story is like the thing to do. That is the trick, and it's very hard to do that well. And that's why, like, for every video I make, I probably toss out like 7 or 8 video ideas because they were either there's just no story coming out of them, there was nothing interesting, or not that there wasn't anything interesting, but there's obviously something interesting for me to want to do it, but there was no way for me to tell a story that I felt like would make an impact. And every time I'm like, you know what, I'm going to disregard this because I really want to cover this topic anyway, and, damn the story, I end up making a video that doesn't do well. So it is like, Would you ever appear on an episode of Behind the Bastards? I would love to. God, it'd be like one of the ultimate honors to be a Behind the Bastards guest. I don't know how likely that is because I think typically Robert Evans gets guest hosts based on them being funny and entertaining, not people being also historians. So I don't think that that's going to Be a thing that I'll get on. Tristan should be on an episode of Ezra Levant or Faith Goldie. Oof. I don't know how well I'd fare on those shows. Because, like, in those circles, like, losing your cool means that you've lost the argument. Like, because everything is about, like, emotion and aesthetics to them. And so, like, if I went on Ezra Levant and got pissed off, he would use that as proof that I lost. Which I would be like, okay. Okay. They're talking about introducing summer school for UK kids that have fallen behind during the pandemic, presuming they don't make it compulsory. How many kids do you think will actually turn up for that? My guess is that a lot would, because parents would probably make them do it. I mean, I've done summer school. I did summer school for different reasons, but, you know, I've done summer school. I did summer school because math was so hard that math was hard enough for me that I didn't want to have any other classes while I was taking it, because if math wasn't completely the only thing that I studied, I was like failing math. So in high school, I often took my math courses in the summer so that when I did my math, I was completely focused on the math. Oh, I should be on the Behind the Bastards for Faith Goldie or Ezra Levant? Maybe. If one has a full pitch idea, how do they get to you without spamming the chat? Vigicuk, there's two ways you can do that. My DMs are open, so you can DM me on Twitter, or you can send an email to tristan@stepbackhistory.com. Those are also, like, chat, I can't guarantee that I'll read everything in chat. It moves so fast. So typically, like, an email or something like that is a better way to get in touch with me. I'd probably say that email you're more likely to get through than on Twitter, because Twitter sort of hides, even if my DMs are open, it hides DMs from people who I'm not following. So yeah, never go on Rebel Media. Oh god, that would be so weird. It's funny because I used to work with, as I mentioned a few times, I used to work for the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, and one of the people I've worked with there, she's been at several media events with Ezra Levant over the years. She disagrees with him on everything. She was like the person about she was like the anti-Islamophobia person. But what about Discord DMs? I don't know. Discord, maybe. Discord, I tend to get spammed a lot, so I tend to be not very discriminating against just sorting through the spam DMs on Discord. But yeah, making content is hard. And so if somebody's like, "Hey, I have this cool idea or this cool story, and there's already like a cool topic to talk about with it," that's giving me a lot to start with. Okay, let's see. Phoebe, stop it. Stop chewing my cables. Stop it. Stop chewing my cables. I just listened to a podcast about the 1972 election. Is George McGovern's defeat part of the reason the Democratic establishment started stacking the deck against left-wing opponents trying to run for president? McGovern seems very much Bernie-like and lost all but 2 states to Nixon. Yeah, I wouldn't say that might be a reason. That is the reason. Democrats are still convinced that that there's basically there's no point in doing left-wing politics. That left-wing that supporting the left and having a democratic primary system is bad. Do I hate capitalism? Since capitalism is the thing that causes more misery than I think any other single thing in human history, Yeah, I do think capitalism is one of the number one sources of death, destruction, and pain and hurt in our modern day. So yeah. Have you ever thought about doing a video on Dark Plagueis the Wise? It's not a story YouTube would tell you. Oh boy. Yeah. But McGovern losing in 1972 was basically the Democrats basically took that as like, oh yeah, like we should probably not back organized labor anymore. That was basically them. That was the last time a like left of center Democrat ran for president, I think. Capitalism is like this weird economic system where we took the common resources of humanity, which like nobody can really ever chart who did what, and everybody has everyone bases all of our wealth and all of our resources and all of our knowledge based on the people who did and worked and invented before we were ever born. There's no way to quantify the value of different people. But then we just draw boxes around all the resources of the world and say, this belongs to a person. And it's caused a lot of misery and, yeah. Phoebe, get down. Now she's like, I'm going to be on top of your tower. And it's like, no, I don't want all that fur in my fans. Have you been to the SawCon event, bro? I don't even know what that is. I don't know what this... I have to ban you. I don't know who... Oh, what the hell that was about. Some malfunctioning bot or something? I don't know. Alright, what do we got next? In his last video, Thought Slime talked about feelings. The best thing you can do for people to help you survive is killing yourself to free them from the burden. I know Matt was trying to give people an idea of the state of mind when he was in a depressive episode. But even so, was irresponsible to say that when you know you have influence over a lot of people. Like in the rest of the video, I don't think he ever says it's wrong to think that. Pass. I don't think I want to answer that question. I don't really know how to talk about suicidal ideation or depression. I'm not depressed. I don't have suicidal ideation. And I have no way to talk about what's responsible or not with that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to get into it. Because I try to be a responsible content creator here. There is a cat tower coming from Amazon today. We decided to buy one. In For All Mankind, Ted Kennedy gets the presidential nomination and beats Nixon. But when Watergate comes out, Nixon still gets a pardon from Ted. Do you buy that a Democratic president would have pardoned Nixon for the good of the country? I mean, yeah. Look at how Obama completely decided to not do anything about George Bush Jr. So yeah, I can buy that. Are you surprised Ronald D. Moore and the other libs writing For All Mankind didn't just assume electing a Democrat in 72 would result in Nixon facing justice? I mean, I think it makes sense. I mean, given what Obama did, I think that it makes sense. I haven't watched this show, so I don't really know the specifics, but yeah. Oh boy. Hey, thanks for the super chat, Matt. Says a lot about America that they had "this land is your land" at the inauguration, but left out the part about private ownership of land being bad. Yup. Okay. Alternate history. Something falls on Nixon's head in November 5th, 1972, puts him in a coma. The reluctance to vote for a president who might have brain damage results in George McGovern just barely winning, do you think progressive Democrat would have handled the economic troubles of the mid-70s? Or how do I think? Honestly, I don't know where neoliberal politics were at that point in history in the Democratic Party. My guess is that they probably would have done something more Keynesian. But the thing is that the way that they were conceiving of Keynesian economics was sort of hitting a wall at that point. So they would have either had to have been, more government stuff. They might have gone into mass amounts of debt. But I don't know, I think you would have seen something similar to how, probably more similar to how Jimmy Carter handled things, honestly. I don't know. What did McGovern... What did McGovern run on for economic policy? So as director, let's see. What was his... Let's look at his campaign, 1972. So he added blue-collar economic populism as his appeal. So I could see something more like New Deal-y, maybe, but probably not nearly as strong by that point. Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyways, I think I'm actually out of questions for without Mia, so I guess I'll just close this for now. Let's see what the other ones see if there's any that have been submitted during this stream, just by chance. All right, let's see. 4 new responses. Nope. 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 And nope. Okay. So I guess I'm just gonna hang out with you in the chat now. Can you get a link to the questions page? Sure. It's gonna make tomorrow's stream very awkward. Hello. One of the atheist podcasters you follow is an ex-Mormon. The other day he said that his extended family were entertaining the idea that church leaders might not be hearing the word of God anymore because they decided to take the official stance that Biden legitimately won the election. Given what I've said about Mormons in the past, is it hypocritical to say that I want them to stay Mormon if the alternative is Trumpism? I mean, I don't know. You've kind of advocated that like Mormons should have their children stolen from them, like what's it called? Like they were indigenous people a century ago. Because they're abusing their children by teaching them things that are wrong. Which, you know, has quite a history attached to it. I mean, I guess if you're like, I think it's, what's it called? Definitely shows that their politics are not exactly coming from a religious place now, is it? They're reverse justifying their reactionary beliefs for the sake of, you know, their politics. Which, like, very often when people are like super reactionary, and then you're like, oh, it's because they're religious, and then they'll instantly do something like, when the Pope becomes more left-wing, instantly say, well, now the Pope's bad. So, makes sense, like, what's it called, to say that, You ever shit yourself? I don't know how to answer that question. No? How about that CPAC stage? Oh man, yeah. I don't know about the details of it yet. I'm sure something will come out in the thing of time, but the shape of the CPAC stage looked suspiciously like a neo-Nazi symbol, and everyone's like, huh, funny that. Wait, what? Yeah, the CPAC stage looked like a sort of a rune, sort of a Viking rune that's been used as a symbol for the Nazi movement ever since like olden Nazi times, and has been proposed as a more politically correct replacement for the swastika by neo-Nazis, and so. Not sure how to phrase it. How do you think there's ever been a major left-wing party that was ever properly left-wing? I mean, I don't know about a... I mean, sure. Yeah. There's tons of left-wing parties. There's tons of, like, what's it called? There's, like, Marxist-Leninist parties and stuff like that. They're all over the place. I don't gatekeep on what left-wing is. I just don't think that left-wing means... I don't think that left-wing is a shortcut to being good. It is definitely a better politics, but you can be left-wing and have some pretty shitty opinions on things. So it's an idea, it's a concept of economics that's more distributive and less like doesn't focus on or does what's it called, common ownership of the means of production and stuff like that, but doesn't necessarily mean a ticket to have it to being great. I mean, of the two major parties in America, I mean, like, some of the stuff that FDR did would definitely border on, like, some real left-wing policies and social democratic reforms. So, while they've come close, there's never really been any, like, Democrat or Republican that has been, like, a proper socialist, no. There have been socialists, like the Socialist Party and stuff like that, but... And there have been socialists that have been very influential in the Democratic Party in the past. Like, there were some socialists that were pretty influential in FDR's administration, but it's still, like, never, like, you know, all the way to the top. Should public school be mandatory? I would not be against something like that, although, yeah, I don't really like the idea of telling people what to do. It definitely should be pretty highly recommended, especially. But at this point, we have to get our public schools to a point where they're actually like good. School needs to be overhauled in a really big way, for sure. And yeah, I am definitely like always like, why would you send people to these things like homeschooling always seems to be like, oh, I don't want reality to intervene with like the indoctrination of my child, which I think is, there's some problems with that, obviously. You need to decommodify how education, for sure. Yeah. Wasn't Henry Wallace a socialist? He's pretty close, I would say, yeah. Probably closer to being a social democrat, but, as far as America goes, it's about as close as you can get. Wouldn't they be more likely to be well-funded if the rich had to send their kids there? Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely against, like, private schools. Yeah, definitely fuck that. What I think is more the problem is homeschooling. Homeschooling's the thing I have mixed feelings about. because I know a lot of people homeschool their kids so that they don't teach evolution, basically, which I'm not the biggest fan of. And also, as I've said before on the stream, that I think one of the important parts of school, one of the important aspects of having schools is the idea that kids get a socialization. They learn how to exist in a function of their peers. And so that's socialization's a big part of a child's upbringing, and I feel like homeschooling sort of slows that down in a bad way. Why do you think Steven Crowder liked .com? Oh, God. Wow. That meme's still going, huh? Oh. The book Educated by Tara Reid is a good look into the nasty potential for homeschooling. Interesting. But why does socializing have to come at the cost of indoctrination? Like the indoctrination from schools or the indoctrination from parents? Like, the thing is, kids are like, it's like whether you're going to be indoctrinated by like a government program that's designed to educate kids, which definitely has like a pro-capitalist, pro-patriotic propaganda function. But also, kids need to spend time in the presence of other kids without adult supervision as like part of the way of your social maturation. And, we are social creatures that live in a social society, and having strong social skills is very important. And we're actually like, our social skills are starting to deteriorate, and I think that it's causing, problems. Tara Westover, yeah. Because, yeah, like kids today are, as I've gone on this rant before, kids today are over supervised, and their schedules are way too dictated and such. And so kids need, space to just chill and hang out with each other and be friends and play and stuff. So where are the spaces to socialize? Like at school? I think there's like 1,001 places where kids socialize at school. While ago, he said the Christian doctrine of conversion was a major factor in the rise of imperialism. One of the atheists I follow has started a reading theory recently that he came across the idea that he incorporated into his reasons for being anti-religion. Thoughts on that? I mean, because I would just say, just because Christianity had this doctrine of conversion as a factor of imperialism, like that's one branch of one religion, and to say that then that can be generalized to literally all religions, even the ones that have nothing to do with it, is really weird. It's a really weird way to. And then many times, and this happens a lot of people who are like viciously atheist, like, angry atheist, new atheist people, they're mad at Christianity and typically Muslims. A lot of times their like new atheism is used to basically hate brown people. but also it's usually because they came from some sort of evangelical Christian background, and it's sort of their reaction against that evangelical Christian upbringing. And because they just came to the conclusion religion bad, they don't think that they have to understand other religions, and so they just assume that all religions function the exact same way as like evangelical Protestants, and therefore they're also bad and they need to be attacked as well. And it's like, okay. Cough, cough, Bill Maher. Yeah. Oh. I mainly remember, man, people were really against the idea of socialization. Trust me. There's like, you really like think that like we should not have public school and that kids should not interact with each other because there's bullies? Like, yeah, bullies are definitely like an element that need to be dealt with, and definitely a place where intervention is probably justified. But like, I don't know. Kids need to spend time with each other. It is a thing. Yeah, Vidget Cuck, you got here. My ultimate point is that socialization is the most important thing offered by schools. By far the most important thing. But it is the last of the concerns of the school. And this is true. Schools have a whole system of treating like they're like a machine, like a factory that makes kids accept state authority and teaches them to accept discipline and to do those things. And at the same time, they treat them as like, you know, just teaching you enough so that you can be employable. And it's like, okay, it's like a babysitting service where they teach you how to read and write. And it's like, okay, I guess that's a thing. But like, that's I don't know. Like, I hate that that's the way that we look at schooling. Instead of thinking of schooling as a place for kids to become enriched and to become to make friends with each other and to, you know, all those, like, to build bonds and to learn how to function as part of a society. Thoughts on concentration camps turning into human babysitting centers once Biden is running things? Oh yeah, the doublespeak is pretty hardcore on that one. Oh man. But also idly assuming to me that schools are also some primary source of trauma for me, and I feel like schools and classes desperately need to be smaller. Oh, yeah, sure. The way that our schools function is terribly dysfunctional. They're underfunded. Their entire philosophy is typically broken, and they're authoritarian messes, yeah. For sure. But like the idea, if like to replace that with like a lot of times when people make the argument or they're against when they're against this stuff, when they're against like public schooling, their typical next step is to then promote either private schooling or homeschooling, and I think those options are even worse. So I mean, at some point kids do have to learn how to read and write, so there is like something to that. Alrighty. I'm starting to feel a little sore, and I think that, you know, we've answered a lot of questions. So I think I'm going to call the stream a little bit early. But I think I'll find someone to raid. But yeah, I hope everybody has a good one. I'll be around tomorrow night. You know, guess you should raid Emily. Be good. Take care of yourselves and each other. I'm going to listen to myself in that regard today. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night. But cheers. Have a good one.